What is the most heinous thing a guest has done in your house? We found him naked and covered in feces, watching explicit content on our TV. Back in 2006, I was working and living on a small island in the Caribbean. I lived alone in a 3-bedroom family apartment in town. Occasionally I would have family that would come for vacation on the island and stay at the apartment I was living at. I worked for a small distribution company that serviced the alcohol industry. At the time, my boss wanted to sell off one of the beer lines he had carried to another distribution company located on another island about a 15-minute plane ride away. So, he had set up a meeting with a guy, we'll call him Jordan. He was the son of the distribution company owner interested in purchasing the beer line. He was roughly mid-30s, and his family was very wealthy. From my understanding, one of the wealthiest families on his island. He was set to fly in on a Friday morning, have his meeting, then fly out in the evening. At the same time, I had an uncle on vacation with his wife and 3 kids staying with me at the apartment. He has twins that were around 4 and another kid that was about 1 or so. So Jordan flies in, and I greet him at the airport. I then drove him to the office to meet my boss. My uncle is also a friend of the boss and sits in on the meeting. They talk for a few hours, then grab lunch before his 4 p.m. flight. I join them for lunch, and they have a few drinks while eating. A few drinks eventually turned into many, and they lost track of time. Jordan realizes that he can't make his flight in time and calls the airline to schedule a flight out first thing in the morning, and I would be tasked with taking him. No big deal. We decided that he could crash at the family apartment as the room I'm staying in has 2 double-sized beds. My uncle and his wife in one room, kids in another, and Jordan and I would share the 3rd room. We eventually head back to the office and decide that we will go to a restaurant and have dinner to entertain our guests. Dinner time arrives, and we head to a nice restaurant for food and drinks. We carry on and hit a few bars, take him to the local strip club, and just keep going until we call it a night. We got back home at 3 a.m. I am plastered and turn to Jordan, saying, "Listen, I'm tired. Going to call it a night. You have to be at the airport at 6 a.m. He tells me he will stay up and watch some TV because he won't be able to sleep. I say no problem and head off to bed. Suddenly I woke up from my sleep. I look up and see my uncle, my aunt and their 3 kids all in my room with a look of shock. I am in total confusion because, at this point, I am still inebriated and only had 2 to 3 hours of sleep. My first thought was that I slept through my alarm, and Jordan missed his flight. So I ask, "What's wrong?" To which my uncle replied, "Come with me." I stumble out of bed and begin following him out of the bedroom, past his shaken family and down the hallway that leads to the living area. What I see next will forever be engraved into my mind. I see Jordan passed out on the couch, completely naked with his belt still on, his clothes folded neatly on the coffee table, and from head to toe, he is completely covered in poop. Human feces. In his hair, on his face, his torso, his legs, and even hand smudges on the walls beside the couch. The smell that captured my nostrils was so horrendous that it sobered me up instantly. I stood there in complete shock as I witnessed this. My uncle turned to me and said, "Grab a leg." We both grabbed a leg, dragged him off the couch onto the ground, and pulled him directly to the bathroom shower, where we just threw on the shower head and walked out. There was literally a trail of smeared poop that led from the couch to the shower when we dragged him, almost like he was a paintbrush, and the poop was paint. We then began to assess the damage in the living room. An empty vodka bottle had caught my eye, and then it suddenly dawned on me. I had an unopened bottle of vodka that I kept in the freezer. Nah, this dummy wouldn't do that, I said to myself. How could he possibly go in and dig through someone's freezer, and it is impossible for him to drink it all. As I proceed to the kitchen, the first thing I notice is a puddle of pee right next to the freezer. I step over it and open the freezer. This man, coming home at 3 a.m. plastered drunk, decided it was a great idea to drink an entire bottle of someone else's vodka. I was lost for words at this point. My uncle then grabs a mop and heads to the shower. In curiosity, I follow him only to see him using the mop like a scrubbing brush to begin to remove the poop from Jordan's skin. We throw some clothes onto him and then carry him downstairs to the car. As I take him to the airport, my aunt and uncle tackle cleaning the house. As I pulled up to the airport, I remembered his face exactly as I was leaning over to open the passenger side door. Pure misery. He was half asleep and still drunk, as you can imagine. I open the door and push him out, pull back in the passenger door and drive off. When I returned to the apartment, I saw the entire couch already on the sidewalk to be collected by the rubbish truck. My aunt, at this point, did a great job at mopping and sanitizing the floor. I asked my uncle how he came to find him like this. He tells me that his twins usually wake up early and watch cartoons in the morning. They are at the age where they can navigate themselves out of their beds and turn on the TV to not disturb them. And the kids innocently walking into the living room that morning was the first to see and immediately ran into their room and said, "Mommy, Daddy, there is a naked man on the couch." He then flew out of bed in confusion and ran out to find him this way. Passed out, nude and with explicit videos showing on the TV. The explicit videos might explain why he decided to get naked. However, the fact he still had his belt on baffles me to this day. I never saw Jordan again after that. Have no clue if he ever knew what happened. He did purchase the beer line from my boss, and we will never know if guilt made him buy it.